Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup of the Year podcast. I'm Frank Gruber, the co-founder and co-CEO of Established, co-founder of Established Ventures, and the team behind the Startup of the Year community and this very podcast. Thanks for being here, and thanks for coming back with us here. We're back. We actually just got back a little bit ago from sunny Tampa, Florida. We had a great time at our 9th annual Startup of the Year Summit. It was brought to you by Relavo and hosted by Embark Collective and produced by and powered by Established here. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to talk about the Startup of the Year. And this year, it was a company called Scout. So I'm going to be talking with the CEO of Scout, Eric Ingram. He's joining me here shortly. Scout is an amazing company that's developing orbital products and services to enable a new era of space safety and tech transparency. And they're basically adding eyes to space and spacecraft. I guess there's a lot of things to navigate up there, and they're helping make it more clear. So that's pretty cool. Scout is also, as I mentioned, the winner of our 9th annual Startup of the Year, and was at our summit and did a great job pitching down in the sunshine at Tampa, Florida, a few weeks ago. And I should mention, it was amazing to be back in person down in Florida, in Tampa. It had been 833 days and some odd hours and 15 minutes since we had gotten back together in person. We last hosted our summit in Memphis in 2019. So it had been a while. So it was great to have everyone back together again, and a number of great speakers, incredible speakers. And we had heard from a lot of thought leaders and investors, and some great fireside chats. So far too many people to list right now, but the good news is that you are going to hear them probably over the next few months as we roll them out here on the podcast and share the audio from those sessions. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be something to look forward to. And we had some great startups out there too. Our semifinals were amazing. It was hard to get down to the top 15 and top 5. And I'll just quickly rattle off some of the companies that were the top 5. So, and actually, let's start with the top 15. We had Cope Notes, and they're out of Florida. GetWise out of Massachusetts. Heroshe from Texas. We had Home Lending Pal out of Florida. Human Intelligence out of Florida. Interview AI out of Colorado. Carbon Pay out of Texas. Marvel out of Florida. Neural Labs out of California. Relavo out of Maryland. Scout out of Virginia. Shamrock out of Florida. Spontively out of Alberta, Canada. And Target Arm out of Connecticut, and The Beans out of California. So those are the top 15. And then we narrowed it from that to the top 5, which was, and they all pitched. The top 5 pitched on the final day to a great group of investor judges, which included folks like Derek Brooks, who is a Hall of Famer in the NFL, and now he's working with Vinnick Sports Group. And we also had Jesse Middleton, who's a general partner of Flybridge and founder of the Community Fund. We had Anna Mason, the managing partner of Rise the Rest Seed Fund and at Revolution. Lisa Mitchell, who's the general manager at Techstars. Erica Dunning, who's the founder and managing partner at Rain Ventures. And obviously, Jen and myself were also on stage, and Consalvo and I were on stage as well. But they pitched amazingly to this group of judges, and we had some great feedback and interactions there. And we're going to share Eric Ingram's from Scout's pitch here in a second. But the other 4 that pitched were Heroshe they're from Houston, Texas. Home Lending Pal out of Orlando, Florida. Relavo out of Baltimore, Maryland. Scout, as I mentioned, out of Alexandria, Virginia. And Target Arm out of Ridgefield, Connecticut. So those were the top 5, and they all pitched in person to a group of judges and crowd, and did a great job. So congrats to everyone that came in, and came out for the event. Hopefully, everyone made meaningful connections. That's what really it's all about. But those that were in the top 15 and top 5 got an extra chance to shine. And then we've also had some People's Choice Awards, which the People's Choice was brought to you by ReliaQuest this year, and we'll announce those here in a second if you didn't hear who they were already. So So these amazing pitches. We're gonna actually let's listen to that pitch from Scout here now. So here's his pitch at Startup of the Year.
So my name is Eric Ingram. I am the co-founder and CEO of Scout, and we're developing next generation space sensing technology. So space, the one up there, not the one you're in right now, is very crowded. And over the next decade, the number of spacecraft or satellites in orbit is expected to go up 40x. We will launch more satellites in the next few years than the previous entirety of human existence. The way we currently track spacecraft is via ground Earth-based radars and telescopes. And while they work great now, as the number of spacecraft and objects in space increase, and as the number of maneuverable spacecraft increase, the ability to track those things will become increasingly strained and can cause a lot of risk to operators in that area. So if you like GPS, if you use internet-based TV and you don't want to lose the Super Bowl spontaneously, that's pretty important to you. So what we are doing is developing in-space vision systems to de-risk all of these operations. So our first product is called Scout Vision. It is a payload that goes on board customer spacecraft that provides vision to those spacecraft and allows them to be cognizant of their surroundings. So what that means is that they can then navigate relative to another object. So they can do things like proximity operations and docking maneuvers, but also things like collision avoidance. And we use a proprietary computer vision, machine learning, and guidance, navigation, and control software stack to essentially add layers of autonomy and intelligence to spacecraft. We then intend to take those same spacecraft subsystems that we've developed and put them into our own spacecraft to use them as third-person perspective observers of things in space. So you can think of them like the traffic cameras of space. We intend to do orbit-wide observation of all of low Earth orbit so that we can provide continuous coverage of orbit. So the current way of tracking things by ground becomes an obsolete concept, and we have incredibly increased information about what's going on in space and what everybody's doing and if they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. So where we are right now is we are a very efficient and capable team. We launched our first payload to space last June. We went from a computer drawing to flown flight hardware in less than 9 months with only 2 full-time people. In the space industry, that is like clinically psychotic statistics. We are a 2021 TechStars alumnus of their Space Accelerator program and a 2020 Mass Challenge Gold winner. We've raised about $1.25 million over 2 small rounds in investment and brought in about $200,000 in non-dilutive funding. This past December was really good to us. We signed our first customer contract with a company called Momentus to fly 2 of our systems on their spacecraft later this year, and we received our first DoD Phase 1 contract. Did I mention everything? Oh, and we were second place in the 2021 Hyperspace Challenge, which is a DoD-sponsored mini accelerator competition. The team that won had just raised like $45 million, so like efficiency-wise, we're doing okay. My background is very dynamic in the space industry, done everything from engineering to regulatory work to space janitorial work, everything. My CTO has a background in almost all spacecraft subsystems and is a technical genius. My COO comes from the fintech industry and also has a background in software engineering. So he's taken startups, everything from founding to acquisition, and is also leading our software development. And we have advisors helping us out from many different perspectives of the industry, from business to defense to commercial operations to national security. And actually, like, this chart is outdated because we recently onboarded more people, so my bad. They're probably not watching. We're actively growing. We are about to open up a seed round raise, and things are going well. So again, my name is Eric Ingram, co-founder and CEO of Scout, and we are developing a new vision for spaceflight. Thank you.
All right. Very cool. That was great. All right, who's got the first question?
I have a few questions. Let's follow up. I have more questions, but can you? So maybe I'll sneak in a 2-part question.
I'm a Capricorn.
What? How? what happens when the traffic cops catch someone? What happens on the other side of that?
Traffic arrest, space traffic arrest. No, we are data collectors and aggregators. We are not the decision makers with what happens to the bad guys, but right now this data set does not exist and definitely doesn't exist commercially. So we're providing a new service. We have a lot of interest from the defense side, and so they will likely be customers of the raw data itself, but also a lot of the services we'll be able to provide. And then there's a regulatory framework called space traffic management that is under development, let's say. Talk to your congresspeople about moving that forward, please. And we're trying to position ourselves to be a means of regulatory requirements for that regulatory ecosystem.
So how do you
What was part two?
Was really curious as to if you can just sort of describe in detail the specific IP, because I would assume that spacecraft already have cameras and other sort of navigational tools. So what is it about this that's truly unique and more efficient?
Yeah, spacecraft are really good at the job they're designed to do, and none of them are designed to be able to navigate relative to other things around them. So, I mean, just rough estimate, 99.9% of spacecraft do not have this capability on board today. We're like a 90-10 split between software and hardware. Most of our IP is on the software side. Again, we have a proprietary computer vision, machine learning, and guidance and navigation and control software stack that we've developed that allows spacecraft to be cognizant of their surroundings.
You're kind of making it like a self-driving car.
Yeah, we're adding layers of autonomy to spacecraft. And we just announced yesterday that we're actually packaging those software packages up individually to be able to sell to customers who just want bits and pieces of those capabilities of the different parts of the autonomy stack. And so we can access additional marketplaces with that, with stuff we've already developed. So it's very low effort to access a ton of additional revenue potential.
So who are your clients? Just United States or other countries?
Friendly countries.
So allies.
Yeah. Our initial beachhead market is with the satellite servicing sector because their primary mission is either repairing, moving, refueling other spacecraft. And so being able to navigate and dock with their customers is really important to them making money. And we're like a fundamental step to allow them to enhance that capability. So we've gotten a lot of interest from them. Additionally, I mentioned there's defense interest for several reasons of what we're developing. And looking out to our space traffic management, space domain awareness mass market product, that's when you get into servicing users of the space commons, so people utilizing low Earth orbit, hypothetically your SpaceX Starlinks if they were to pay for something, and then other users who want to ensure the safety of their spacecraft by knowing more accurately what's happening around their spacecraft, if there's any collision risks or anything like that.
I commend you on your efficiency so far. Out of curiosity, how do you view your capital requirements over the next decade?
This is the final question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So short answer is as much capital as you want to give me. The longer answer is, so to get to an MVP of the space traffic management framework that I said, we're looking at about 30 million all in. We want to offset as much investment as possible with revenue, which is why we've developed our business to generate revenue with products we have developed now with different customer segments as we improve. But again, we're very efficient. I mean, with less than $500,000 invested, we got our first mission to space. We're going to do this even if we have to do it with duct tape. So we prefer to at least have very nice duct tape.
Let's hope it's not duct tape. But thank you very much, Scout. Appreciate it. All right. Eric is definitely charismatic on the mic and did a great job fielding the questions. He had fun with it, so that's super important. And you can see he's building a really interesting company. All right, now shifting gears. It's time to hear an interview with Eric. So let's bring Eric on and jump right in. All right, super excited to be here. Congratulations again, Eric, on being the start of the year, our 9th annual start of the year last week at Summit. How's it feel?
It feels great. Still riding that high, still, taking it all in. It's been an exciting week.
Yeah, excellent. So for those that are listening that maybe didn't understand your pitch because it's maybe a little too in depth for them, can you break it down? Give us if I had to explain this to my mother, what would you tell them kind of scenario for what you're doing at Scout?
Gotcha. And it's slightly twofold, as you probably heard in the pitch itself, but space is very crowded and spacecraft are flying blind. So the initial product we're making is essentially eyes for spacecraft. So our systems go on board customer spacecraft or satellites and allow them to see what's going on around them so that they can try to avoid any accidents or to perform different kinds of operations that need that sight capability. And then addition to that, our long-term product is basically, you can think about it as a traffic camera. So the highway of space has a lot of satellites and things going around the orbit. And we want to set a network of in-space cameras essentially to watch the traffic in orbit, to be able to track what's going on and see who is doing good things and who's not doing good things.
Perfect. That's great. So I definitely think spectacles for space is definitely something my mother would understand, and traffic is another thing she would get. So thank you for breaking that down. I'm sure she's listening and now has a clear picture of what you're up to over there at Scout. And for those of you maybe that didn't understand, like maybe you didn't explain it fully, how did you come up with this idea, and for how long have you been working on this project?
So this idea was kind of the result of a lot of different things happening. I've been in the space industry my entire career, so I've gotten several different experiences from everything from engineering to regulatory work, and I've seen gaps in the needs of the space industry for additional data and information and transparency about what's going on in space. So that, in combination with my CTO having experience a few years before Scout was founded, where he lost a satellite of his to unknown causes. And part of his frustration was if he was just able to see his satellite, he would know what was wrong with it and know how to fix it. And they spent months trying to recover it and trying to do things, and they're not even sure if the efforts that they did actually made this situation worse. So all of that to say, there is a need for more information, more data, more services to observe things in space. And so it's a nice little niche that we've carved out for ourselves. And the company is about 3 years old now, and very well positioned from a technology standpoint to hopefully seize a big chunk of that market.
So he's literally, you put a satellite in space, and you can't really figure out, like, if something goes wrong, you don't know where it is what you're saying. Is it gets lost it's literally lost in space.
It's a little more nuanced than that. Spacecraft have additional onboard sensors like GPS and different location sensors like star trackers that basically look at the stars in the background and kind of let the spacecraft know where it is pointing. But if you have a major malfunction and you're not able to get that data down from the spacecraft, then basically, like you said, it's the space version of just being dead in the water. And it's very difficult to overcome those issues.
Right. So either let it just continue to orbit, right? And so I guess, are there a lot of, I guess, dead, lost, I guess, what do you call these satellites that are running around that maybe have lost control?
It's not as many as it might sound, but maybe derelict. I don't know if there's an official word,
Yep.
but it's something that happens, right? And
Right.
In addition to that, there's the debris that is in orbit. There is satellite collisions or satellite tests in orbit that cause more debris, and so there's a lot of different things happening that make orbit, specifically low Earth orbit, a very complex neighborhood to operate in.
That makes sense. And so some of the other things that are up there are space junk, right? Or debris, as you mentioned. And that's just from, what is it, about 50 or so years of sending things up there. And some things worked, some things didn't. And so there's no garbage collector, right?
Not yet. There's several companies working towards being the garbage collector of space. And, we're trying to talk to all of them about us being the eyes for their garbage trucks, let's say. I'm trying to make as many car analogies as possible. I don't know if I should keep going with that or not.
No, I like it. It's making it more clear in my brain of what you're actually doing. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. And so it sounds like you found a niche, the vision for space, right? And I guess what are some of the things you need to do now that you have this product out there? What are some of the, I guess, partnerships, or I guess who could be some of your users out there?
So our initial customer base is with the satellite servicing part of the industry, and I think I mentioned it in the pitch, but that's related to things like repairing, moving, refueling other spacecraft, because before you can do all of those kinds of operations, including the debris cleanup, the junk cleanup, like you mentioned before, you need to be able to see what that thing is and how it's positioned, and be able to navigate relative to it. So the first step towards any of those complex operations is being able to see and know what's going on. And so that's really where we fall into place. And we're working to build up our customer base, both on the commercial side and the government side. We recently announced that we've broken up our software into individual products. So as part of our initial Scout Vision product, which is our vision system that we put on customer spacecraft, we developed a lot of software that add layers of autonomy to spacecraft operations and can allow them to do some pretty interesting and fun things. So in order to reach wider markets and gain more exposure to the industry, we're now offering several of those bits of software and capabilities as standalone products for customers who might not have or might not want specific vision capabilities on board.
Very cool. And then I guess the other piece you mentioned is kind of the second phase is traffic. What is that going to look like? Or what are you forecasting? Because you're obviously building a product for the future, well, now and the future. What are you guys thinking about when you're doing that? And what do you kind of envision space looking like in 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years, it's going to get a lot more crowded. The number of spacecraft is going to go up 40x. And
wow,
so
40x?
40, yeah. The current estimate for the 10-year outlook, I think, is a 40x increase in spacecraft.
That's really crazy to think about. So I guess maybe I should dial it back. What do you think in the next couple of years? And then obviously it sounds like it's going to explode.
Well, hopefully we'll keep the explosions to a minimum, but
I hope so too.
Yeah, we're building up our capabilities. It's going to take a few years to get to the point where we can do orbit-wide monitoring of traffic. But if we look forward, let's say 5 to 10 years, let's say we've got our full network established, then what that means is at a slightly higher altitude than most of the traffic, we'll have a fleet of our own spacecraft essentially looking down at low Earth orbit and tracking everything that's going on. So, there'll be a lot of dots moving, basically. We're going to track the dots and gain some other interesting information about what they're doing. And it's just going to be a way to add that transparency. We'll have a platform for people to access data about their spacecraft. We'll have customers purchasing the raw data by itself to use for different things, like government purposes and things like that. And so it'll be
it's like a layer, right? It's like a layer of lower than, like, if you think about, like, satellites have done this for governments and other organizations for years, right? Mostly of Earth. So you're literally doing a layer focused on space.
Exactly. And we're not even sure everything that these services and data and products can be used for. There could be entire industries that pop up based on the kinds of data we'll be acquiring at a pretty massive scale.
Yeah, and I can certainly imagine there's a number of UFO hunters out there that can't wait to see what you see as well. So they're wondering if you can maybe.
Yeah, we'll have to turn off the cameras every time the UFOs go past. So sorry.
Of course, right, of course. No, but to be serious, like there have been a lot of sightings over the last several years that have been released, and by the government, right? These unidentified flying objects, and we're not really sure what they are. They could be, a number of things. That's why they're unidentified. But I'm curious to hear, once you get that vision up there, what kinds of things you all see.
Yeah, honestly, hadn't even thought about the UFO thing, but that is definitely interesting. And hopefully, if we do catch something, they actually let us talk about it. But we'll see. A lot of possibilities.
Lots, yeah, definitely. Very exciting. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit because we are coming off this exciting week, and we were out in Tampa. The sun came out for you to pitch, and you did a fantastic job. I want to just hear overall, how was the summit aside from winning? Aside from that, how was it for you?
It was great, and I would say that 2 hours of sunlight was enough to give me a sunburn, which I thought was pretty funny and a testament to how much more I need to go outside on a regular basis. The event was great. The speakers, at least the ones I watched, I'm sure all of them were wonderful, but the speakers I saw were great, provided an awesome amount of information. The other entrepreneurs I was able to meet gave good insight. They're all working on different things and have different problems, and some of those problems overlap, and so we're able to exchange war stories and potential solutions that way. Of course, the llamas were a great touch. I was pretty excited about that.
That's my doing. I love llamas. I don't know if you figured that out, but they just bring joy, right?
Honestly, it's one of the more random things I've seen at an event, and somehow it made sense. I appreciate it.
Excellent. We enjoyed bringing those. This is our 9th annual, and we brought them to just about everyone. Last year virtually we had them even in some of the sessions, so that was kind of fun. And yeah, so just like to bring joy to everyone, because it is it can be a little bit daunting. There's a lot going on, and obviously a lot of sessions and things that you're trying to be a part of, and so we want to just bring some things that can also make it fun for everyone. So wanted to hear about your matchmaking, any potential investor, anything else that you thought was solid from the event, and obviously being the start of the year, obviously being a big one for you as well.
The group of investors there was pretty awesome as well. Part of the decision making that went into us attending was that there was an investor we really wanted to meet in person that was attending, and so we're like, all right, this is a good opportunity for that. So that networking potential is something that also drove our desire to attend the event. And based on the conversation I've had, I have a few follow-up conversations. I think winning the competition helped a bit, but I think I came out of that with about 4 or 5 solid leads on potential investors. And as we're heading into a fairly large seed raise, that hopefully will position us fairly well.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. I know you came out of Techstars as well. So obviously, they have a great network, and some of those folks were there as well. So that's great to hear. Wanted to just hear, what was your experience like with that? When did you guys go through Techstars?
We were part of the Techstars Space Accelerator program in summer of 2021. So I don't know, like 9 months ago, something like that. And it was let's say a whirlwind experience. Because of COVID, it was still remote. So that was unfortunate, but we packed in so much business development and experience in those 3 months. Like, it was amazing. It was essentially like having a second job. It was a lot of work, but was definitely worth it. And, we came out the other end way better positioned as a company and as like individual founders and executives, whatever, based on that experience. So the network is definitely useful, but the experience is really what's allowed us to get to where we are right now.
That's great. Any words of advice for founders out there growing a company? We've got a lot of listeners that are startup founders, probably, maybe have ideas of doing things in space. I mean, because it's very ambitious what you guys are doing, right? Like, you're starting to hear a lot more about space products, but it's becoming more, I guess, easier to produce those types of offerings with, than it was maybe say 10, 15 years ago. But for anybody out there that has just a wild idea, what would you tell them?
Pursue it until you find out it's not worth pursuing. That's generally what I would say. started this company while I was full-time at my previous job, and worked on it part-time for about 8 months before I left to go full-time. And I actually, hired someone to work full-time prior to me going. So, I mean, leverage your means and what you have. Don't mortgage your house to get it off the ground. But if you pass those decision gates where you find out it's worth pursuing this much more, it's worth pursuing this much more, then, keep moving. And if that happens quickly, it happens quickly. If it doesn't, it's fine. It's a roller coaster ride. It's an experience. I'm pretty sure I can write about 10 books so far, and my company is only 3 years old. But I will say, traction takes time. It was really only around the time we started the TechStars program when we actually started to get traction. So we had, 2 years of a lot of effort with not a ton of positive outcome, but, we knew it was worth pursuing. So we kept grinding, and, put in the effort you need to put in, but, don't sacrifice yourself to do it.
Great advice for everyone out there, because it takes a little while. And I love that you start as a side hustle, and, obviously some folks do that, and it's great because you can kind of get a little bit of momentum and get your feet wet, and then find the right time to kind of get going on your own. So great to hear that. Anything else you want to share for those out there listening? Anything else you want listeners to know about your company, or maybe how to get in contact with you? Anything you're looking for that you need help with? Maybe you could share it here, and we'll try to connect it.
Yeah, I mean, for one, just spreading awareness that we exist is pretty great. I don't think we'll end up being a household name like SpaceX, but I'm hopeful that, maybe one day we can. Additionally, we're hiring right now for computer vision engineers, guidance, navigation, and control engineers, flight software engineers, and business development folks. So if you're interested in that, go to scout.space, which is our website, and you can check out what we have there. And, I just appreciate people being along for the journey and being part of everything that's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Eric. And I should mention Scout. I love the name, and it's at scout.space. You've got a great domain, but I should mention what Scout stands for. It's actually Spacecraft Observing and Understanding Things. So it actually is an acronym in itself for what you're actually doing. So it makes a lot of sense to me, and I love it. So appreciate what you're doing, and thank you so much for being here, and congratulations again on being our 9th startup of the year. Thanks so much, Eric. It was great to talk to you, and really excited about Scout. Everything we got going over there, and appreciate you breaking it down for us here on the interview. I also want to mention that the live stream of the event is also out there. So if you go to our YouTube channel, if you just go to soty.link /ESTYouTube, you can find it, and you can watch both days, day 1 and day 2 of the summit, where day 1 is all about the speakers, and day 2 we had a couple speakers, and then we had the finals. So check those out on YouTube, the established YouTube account. All right, now Scout wasn't the only winner. Everyone that participated, obviously, was there. Hopefully, made connections and built relationships that will last and continue to help them build their company and elevate their company. We also had our 9th annual Start of the Year People's Choice Awards, which were presented by ReliaQuest. And I wanted to mention just the different categories and some of the winners there. These were all voted on by the general public. So there was a poll out there floating around, and that's how we selected these. So we had a couple of categories this year, and then an overall winner. The categories there's 5 categories, and there's ag tech, climate tech, sustainability, space tech, robotics, aerospace, and manufacturing. And the winner there was Genesis Systems out of Tampa, Florida. Genesis Systems also won a special award this year from us called the Breakout Startup of the Year, which basically means that they outgrew the awards, and more or less we had to provide them with a special award because they couldn't compete with everyone else. It wouldn't have been fair necessarily because they've grown so fast. So Genesis Systems is really doing some interesting things. They're basically creating these cubes that suck all the air into it and then create water. So pretty cool technology, and I'm excited about what they're doing down in Tampa. IoT, cybersecurity, data cloud, AR, VR, and MIL or AI and ML. That category was Mind VR out of Dallas, Texas. The category of FinTech, InsurTech, Legal Tech, True State out of Tampa, Florida won that award for People's Choice. And then Health Tech, Biotech, Life Sciences, Lifestyle and Wellness was Cope Notes out of Tampa, Florida. And then Social Impact, Culture, or HR, Productivity, Real Estate, Marketplaces, and EdTech went to Hello out of Puerto Rico. So lots of great companies there. And the overall winner of the People's Choice Award at the 9th Annual Startup of the Year Summit and Awards was Cope Notes out of Tampa, Florida. Love what they're doing, and you can check them out at COPE notes.com. We'll drop that into the show notes for you. And hopefully you get a chance to check out all these companies. They all did an amazing job, and really appreciate everyone that came down and participated with us. It was a lot of fun to do and get back in person. So I'm still kind of recovering from the glow of being able to be out in person with people again. So excited about that and looking forward to doing more with all of you in the future. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode here today and you learned something from the conversation that Eric and I had. We're kind of at a wrapping point here of the episode. So if you have a startup idea and you want to get it going, today is the best day to start up, not tomorrow, not the next day. I encourage you to get it going, join our community for access to support, expert advice, and resources that you'll need to elevate your startup. Just simply go to startupofyear.com, hit the application button, and join us. It's free. Until next time, I'm Frank Gruber signing off, and good luck out there starting up.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.